I have Chris from Missouri here. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thank you, Theo. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Well, Chris, normally I have smaller channels on here and channels that are within their first year. You do qualify for within the first year, but you're kind of a bigger channel now. You kind of came out of the gate really quick. What what exactly happened? I feel like you're a rising YouTube star out of nowhere.
Well, I don't know. I feel pretty lucky, but I think I really got a big hit when Mike Moynihan had me on his channel, and I enjoy that. And then when you get endorsed by somebody like Mike, it kind of gives you,
Yeah.
you end up having a little bit more fans to start off with. So it's one of like that old saying. It's easier to become a millionaire if you start out with $999,000. So
I know, I like that. Yeah, I watched the show with Mike. It was really really good. I'm assuming Mike might have found you from maybe Dawn Field of Dreams because I remember Dawn started talking about you prior to that. You guys were talking on the phone. Is that kind of where that connection maybe came in?
well, no, it's kind of the reverse of that. I got to know Mike first.
Okay.
Um, I became friends with his channel, and we would talk back and forth, and found out that we had similar collections, and I met up with him at the National,
Okay.
uh, and then he invited me to his meet and greet, and then after he had me on, Don gave me a shout. I called Mike and got my phone number and stuff, and the first night that I ever talked to Don, I was getting ready to set up at a card show, and there was some delays and stuff letting us get in the building. And I thought he was reaching out for like just 5 minutes, but it went from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. We talked for an hour, uh, and now we talk quite a bit. We talk on a daily basis.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's great. So so I know you've been in the card industry, card community for a long time, but you just what has it been? 4 months you've been on YouTube? How long now?
My first one was October 17th, so
Okay.
not quite 4 months yet.
Okay. So what again pushed you to jump onto YouTube in October?
Well, it was probably after the last national. I went to, so I went to Jersey, Atlantic City, and I
Okay.
had another one of the meet and greets, and everybody was nice. Everybody was having fun, and I still felt a little left out. Even though everybody's treating me good and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
and and Mike had been encouraging me for over a year. Just push play basically, and my wife works out works out to a video of a young lady that we know real well, and she always says, listen, before you start working out, everybody's always wanting to know, do I have the right equipment? What do I wear? Or what? And all she always says is just push play. And basically that's what Mike said. Just get on there and start talking about your cards. And it has really changed the way I enjoy the hobby, because to me doing these now has become just as much of a hobby as collecting cards, and I love collecting the cards.
That's awesome. That's great that you put yourself out there. I put myself out there. I like you said, I had my one camera set up. I had it propped up against like like one of my card boxes, and my first video is shot so bad. My sound quality's bad. Snoop wouldn't be happy with me, and like you said, you kind of learn as you go. Because one thing I saw you picked up, and I'm seriously jealous because you claim to be non-tech savvy or however you phrase it, and you brought out the double camera really early with the face shot with the card shot, and I still have not mastered that technique. How have you done that to where your videos come out so good with it?
Well, I'd like to take full credit for that, but um, my wife, after watching my first video or so, she said, you can do this. And I think what it was is she was trying to shrink my ugly mug and then show the cards bigger. So
Yeah.
it was something that we learned together, and she showed me how to do it. And I actually enjoy doing the videos like that. Then and there's some other people on here that do that, that do that, and
Yeah.
it gives more emphasis on the cards or whatever you're showing, I believe.
Yeah, I do too. I prefer, especially with like SGC reveals, I prefer to have the main screen to be the camera, the cards, because I've tried to where I hold them up, and I'm just not feeling like the people are seeing enough of the details of the cards when I do that. So I would really like to go to the two camera. So is one of yours an actual camera, or are you using two camera phones?
I mean, I'm using something just a little bit newer than a flip phone.
Oh,
It's nothing. Just an old. It's a Samsung phone that a Galaxy. I don't know, Galaxy 9, 10. I don't know what it is,
yeah.
and it's just a quick feature on my phone. And matter of fact, it is the second feature that when I hit a video, it gives me a choice that I can change in mid video. I can change back and forth. So
Okay.
um, it, yeah, it's nothing high tech at all, at all.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research to try to get mine straightened out. I definitely want to do that. So you talked about your wife helping you get on and helping you get set up. So what does your friends and family think about your new YouTube stardom, or do they not really care much about YouTube?
They don't. Most of them don't know. I don't think, but maybe 490 of my relatives got together and subscribed to my channel just to make me feel better. But I think my daughter subscribed and my son has, but I guarantee you they don't watch. I could tell them the first one after that comes and tells me about this video, I'll give $100 to. I will. I'll be saving that $100 for a couple years. That's for sure. So I
Yeah.
think my wife I think my wife kind of watches it just on occasion just to make sure I'm not doing anything stupid or telling any dad jokes. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you tell any of your coworkers or anything at work, or not really?
Well, so one of my coworkers is a baseball card collector as well,
Okay.
and he sets up at shows with me. He's a foreman of mine in my business, and he comes and helps me set up at shows and stuff. And so he watches it, and I'm sure, I'm sure he's passed that on to some other people, and because I'll walk into Lions Club meeting, and somebody will say, "Oh, here's Chris from Missouri," that kind of stuff.
That's
But
cool. That's really
yeah,
cool. I
yeah.
Yeah, it's always a little bit of a weird thing with people, at least for me, when people at work know and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool. So so I guess, is YouTube what you expected, or I guess what's different about it than what you expected, I guess.
Well, so I think the difference is I didn't know it would bring people that you consider friends right away.
Mm,
You're watching, you're watching them, so you get to know them. You think, and their collection if you've been watching them for a little while. But uh, it's just I don't know. It's not like instant friends, but you gravitate toward people
yeah.
that our videos are similar than yours or your collection's the same. I mean, there's some I don't know. In the last 4 months, I feel like I've got a dozen really good friends.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you feel the same way. But that's what I did not expect that. I really didn't.
Yeah,
You know.
I think that's a good point. It surprised me also. I have a group of really close YouTube friends now, and me and my wife were talking about, trying to make arrangements for me to get to the national with work and stuff. And the one guy said he's got a bed for me, and my wife just, it's hard for her to comprehend that I would stay with a stranger,
Uh,
and that I
yeah.
that I have never met yet. And I know Dawn laughs about it all the time, but it is so true. Oh, like I feel safe. Like you don't have to worry, but like people don't people don't get that. It's kind
Yeah.
of weird.
Yeah, it's like one of those things they worry about you because you're gonna wake up the next morning in a ice tub, a bathtub full of ice with a kidney missing or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
But no, it's you feel like you know them right away, and no,
exactly.
it's
There's just
pretty.
yeah, there's just so many genuinely nice people on here. I thought there was going to be so much more trolling, and I thought like half the people would just kind of laugh at you and troll you, and it's been the opposite. The trolls kind of get pushed out by people basically. I feel like, but
Right now they don't carry much weight, and if and us newer guys to the hobby, all we have to do is take some advice from the older, the ones that been in the hobby a longer or been doing channels for a longer time.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So look, I'd love to go into your background. So I know recently you had a video where you talked about you used to play a catcher. Johnny, you looked up to Johnny Bench and you like to play catcher. So when I thought about you playing catcher, I'm sure you've seen the movie Sandlot. I was thinking he's got to be that catcher kid in Sandlot who just like gives everybody a hard time, is a rascal. Was that you, or were you more serious than he was?
No, so I did do that a lot. The difference between me and him, I was so little. I
Okay,
mean, growing up, I think I graduated about 160 pounds or something like that, and but when they initially they called me Turtle because when I first put the catcher's equipment on, I had the chest protector on backwards, walking as a 6 year old up to home plate. But I did talk a lot of trash when during the game.
that's
Luckily, my pictures that I had were good enough that I could get away with some of that kind of stuff.
That's cool. That's awesome. So outside of baseball and being a catcher, did you have any other sports that you played through high school?
So, high school, uh, through high school, I played basketball. Went to a small school,
Okay.
a little small school in mid Missouri. So I played soccer. Soccer came around my sophomore year in high school, and our basketball coach forced all the basketball players to play soccer. So when we got in, we would get in really good shape for basketball, and
Uh-huh.
I had some success in that, even though it was something that initially I didn't want to do, and then I played basketball the whole time and baseball. And weird in baseball in mid Missouri, you never know if your season's going to have 10 games or 25 games, and just because of the weather. And we were lucky enough all through my career in high school to play a bunch of games. And
Nice.
then, but
What?
basketball was probably my favorite sport
That,
uh, to to
me too.
to play,
Nice.
and I was better. I was a better catcher than I was a basketball player. I started for 3 years in high school, that kind of stuff. But
Nice.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more. But just baseball, and if I had to go back to talk to coaches, and I coached for a long time, and I actually did teach young coaches, but I would take it. Usually, the catcher on little league teams and stuff like that has to catch all the time
Yeah.
because batting practices go by faster when you got a kid that can catch the ball, and then and so every day the catcher is catching and doesn't get much of a rest, and
Yep.
my body is letting me know that now.
Yeah, I have a friend from high school and he was similar. He literally played catcher elementary school through senior, and he has very bad knees now. So I think there's a lot of people want to protect the pitcher's arm, but they should think more about the catchers too, like you said. Uh,
Yeah.
so, so what kind of basketball player were you? Were you a guard? Were you a forward?
I was so starting out. I was a shooting guard, point guard, shooting guard, and then my senior year in high school, uh, we had a really good team. I thought was going to be a good team, and our two big guys, we had two 6'4" guys and a 6'3" guy, had
Wow.
some size to us,
Yeah.
but we found out that we were better when we moved these two guards up. So we ran a weird offense where we ran a 1-4 high post, and I actually played a post position. And
Nice.
when we played, if we played man to man, I actually had to guard a post player. And I'm 5'9", but
That's
but
awesome.
but
Yeah,
it made us better. We were a good team. We were a good team when we did that.
that's cool. So what age did you actually remember start collecting baseball cards?
7. Let's see, 6. I guess when I received my first cards, I was 6.
Okay.
I really wasn't a collector until maybe 9 or 10. But I guess you're a collector when you get your first card and you keep it. So I was 6 years old, and it was 1973.
Okay.
So,
Uh,
so
that's a good year for tops. The white border tops cards. Did you collect some of those then?
well, I'm going to show a couple cards a little later on. But yes, 73. I didn't put the set together for the longest time, but um, uh, I I gravitated towards 73s even later on, just because I liked the way they looked.
Hmm.
And all my favorite players were in the 73 set that I could spout off to you as a 6 or 7 year old, and so
Yeah, a lot of the greats from the '60s were still playing at that time. So yeah, it is a great set for sure.
uh,
So I know I've told my story on the channel, but I didn't get into vintage until 2 years ago when my father showed me his cards. Um, did you did you have any moment like that as a child where you saw older cards from somebody and it kind of sparked you?
well, yes. So um, in our neighborhood, I had a few cards. I had a few cards that were given to me by my cousins and different things, but some older kids in my neighborhood had some cards and had some older cards. One of the guys that was, he was probably 18 or 19,
Yeah.
lived a street over, and he had his dad's cards. So he had a lot of 1954s. I remember that quite a bit. And I remember uh, wanting one so bad that I traded. I have it out here all the time. So this isn't anything special, but
That's cool.
I have the two, and this in a weird holder, but this is an Ellis Kinder card, and then this is a Eddie Matthews card. And if I got this one out of the holder, you can see where the rubber bands are tearing that baby up. See that?
So that's one that you traded with the neighborhood friend, or that's one you got as a child?
Okay, so neighborhood friend had this card, and I traded a Burt Blyleven, what I thought was a rookie card, to the guy for a tore up card, and then this Ellis Kinder was another one in a deal. And so I had another friend who was just a year or two older that took care of me a little bit. And when I told him what I gave up for this card,
Yeah.
he was like, "Nope, don't ever do that again." And I don't want you trading unless you talk to if they're going to be older than you, you're not trading unless you're talking to me first, because he thought I was taking advantage of. But what I really traded, which still was a good card, was a 72 Blyleven. And at the time, I thought that was his rookie, which it wasn't. But anyway, when I saw these 54 cards, I just kind of fell in love with the older stuff. And then it wasn't too much longer. And I've told a story on my video that I mowed yards for a lady,
Right.
and she paid me in baseball cards, and that's what started my vintage set. And then
How does that? I'm trying to. So I cut grass as a child too, and that's the coolest story ever. And how did that like? How did you guys work that out though? Like, did she call you in the house and go, all right, well, tell me the 5 cards you want the most, and then we'll give you these in order? Or did she just give you a random card and you didn't know what you were going to get that day? Like, how did that get
No,
worked out?
well, so it's funny. Um, I don't know how she knew I wanted collected baseball cards,
Yeah.
but it might have been just in conversation and just with her. But the very first time I mowed her yard, uh, it was I remember I just remember she brought me. She said, "Come on in, I'll get you paid." And she was going to write. She had a checkbook. She was going to write me out a check and got me a big glass of lemonade. She said, "Hey, do you collect cards, baseball cards?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I love it, whatever." And so she a little tiny lady, and she brought down this wooden box, and it was weird. It had 2x4s as the handle. So I mean, it had to weigh more than she did. And she set it down on the ground, and she said, "Why don't you pick you out a handful of cards, and and we'll use that as your payment today."
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, here's this little old lady that can't afford, poor little old lady that can't afford to mow her yards, but I'm going to get some baseball cards.
Right.
So I did not want to be rude. You know, I can't believe I didn't do this, but I didn't reach in and grab as much as I could, but
Right.
I reached in and grabbed a handful of cards, maybe 25 cards or so, and didn't even look at them because I was feeling good right in here that I was doing something nice to this sweet little old lady. And so as I'm going back home, I'm looking, oh gosh, there's whoever, Willie Mays and a 53 mantle and stuff. I mean, it was a who's who of cards. And if I would have just taken those cards right there and just stored them away and not played with them, I wouldn't be on your show right now because I'd have to have new friends. Um, but I did that for, half a dozen times. It might even been more than that because such a long time ago, but I was pulling in a haul for cards, and even kind of looking forward to mowing it. But then one day I really needed the gas money. And I told her, I said, I
Oh,
had it and say, I said, "Hey, can you pay me this time?" And that was she didn't wasn't offended or anything, but she wrote me a check, and then she never did get those cards back out at all.
uh,
And so I don't know what happened to them, but how I'm so stupid. But
uh,
but
but
I I
like,
I have most of them now still.
uh, that's just so cool. Like, do you think like she didn't really know what she had and she thought she was getting a good deal from you? Do you think was it her husband's stuff and she was just trying to get rid of it? Like what was what do you think she was thinking?
Okay, it was her son's stuff. I know
Okay.
that. But
Uh,
he was older and he didn't care for him anymore. But I mean, I think she knew that she was giving me looking back at it, I know she knew she was giving a better deal to me than paying me $6 whole to mow her yard.
yeah.
So she knew she was giving me a good deal, you
Okay.
know.
Yeah, that's so cool. So to kind of go away from your background, I'd love to talk about, I'm very interested in hearing about the dealer side of things. Because like I said, I'm new to the hobby and I haven't been around many dealers. So how long have you been a car dealer also for?
Well, I don't really consider myself a dealer, but I guess I am.
You set up at shows.
Yeah, I set up shows and I sell doubles and triples of what I have.
Okay.
And then I take that money and I usually turn around and buy other cards with it, buy bigger cards.
Yeah.
And I probably spend more money at shows than what I make. But it's easier to buy an expensive card if you sold. It's easier to buy $1,000 card if you sold $950 card. And so
Right.
I first did one when I was in college and regretted it. Oh gosh, because I selling some cards. And I remember the one that hurt me the most even it was a 76 Mike Schmidt. And I sold that card and I thought, well, I don't want to sell these cards. But anyway, I
Right.
I was already committed and I sold some. But then I started going into the local card shop, and that I just started going into maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Time gets away from you, but it might have been longer than that. But anyway, he I was kind of the vintage person, so he needed more vintage persons. He would, he started a show, and he said, "Why don't you come sit by my table with your vintage stuff?" And it started from there. And now, now I go and I do enjoy that. I do enjoy sitting at the table selling the stuff, and then I especially enjoy the kids coming around talking to them, and it's another group, sort of like the our YouTube group.
Yeah.
It's kind of that kind of group, and you, I especially love going the day before the show starts and setting up that night, and then walking around talking to other dealers, and it's just another group, and I
Yeah.
like it.
So how often do you set up at card shows a year now?
Probably 6 to 8 times a year.
Okay.
Uh, and they're
Local.
Yeah, they're within an hour and a half of where I live, but my local card shop's 40 minutes away. So I'll do that I'll do in Columbia, Missouri, 3 or 4 times a year, and then there's one in the capital, Jefferson City, which I'll set up 3 or 4 times a year too.
So would you like I've heard a lot from dealers that a lot of dealers are like you where they deal to collect and they use those funds back into the hobby. But I think I've also seen legit, I call them dealers. They deal to make money. So would you say it's like half and half? Half the dealers are legit business guys and they don't really care what cards they sell, and half are the collector dealers? Or would you say what how do you think the mix is usually?
I I believe people, and I could be wrong, but with my experiences, I believe that at the local shows in people's areas,
Mhm.
uh, it's it's just as many dealer collectors as it is dealers, just dealers. And the reason I say that is they don't usually those tables don't cost a whole lot of money,
Right.
and so you get a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm going to set up so if I sell some, I sell some, but this way I get to go around looking at cards too."
Yeah.
And so you don't have to have much of an investment. But I really believe people that set up at the national and set up at other places, they might have their personal collection, but they're also dealers, and
Yeah.
they're in it to make. And there's some good guys out there that are,
Yeah.
and they're good to know too, because uh, it just gives you another pair. If you get to know them and treat them well, and they treat you well, it gives you another pair of eyes to find what cards you want.
Yeah, for sure. So to me, the Nationals like the major leagues of being a dealer. So um, like did you have any aspirations to ever be a dealer at a national?
I don't think so. Uh, I have some friends that are dealer. That's what they do is they make money,
Yeah.
and they've been setting up there for years. I have one guy that's been there since '95, setting up at
Wow.
the National, and uh, I think the only time I would ever do it is if I would I would bring just a little bit of stuff and maybe share a table with somebody. Because I was told if you're going to set it up at the National,
Yeah.
be prepared to sell it, because there's people looking for stuff, and there are people looking for the same stuff that you are, or the stuff you have. And I think the reason I wouldn't, well, a couple reasons I wouldn't set up at the National
Yeah.
is I won't do it now. I won't do it now that I'm a YouTuber, and the reason is I'm having so much more fun with the YouTube people,
Right.
uh, unless they want to just come hang out at my table. But also, it's a pretty big commitment setting up at the National, because you know it's a 6 day kind of event to
Yeah.
set up and all that. And so so it costs some almost $1,300 for a section.
Wow.
Uh, and so if you take that times 6 days or whatever, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of hamburger to sell. And then you also have hotel rooms and nights at the hotel, eating out.
Yeah.
Unless you're just going to get filled up on fast food and crap. That's a big commitment. So you gotta, you're going there knowing that you're spending $12,000 before you even sell a card.
Yeah,
And
that is a lot. That's a big investment.
but I have not heard anybody set up at the National that has ever said, "Boy, I wish I wouldn't have set up at the National." I talked to a guy today that's been setting up there for a long time,
Yeah.
and he said there's never been a time that he didn't come home saying, "Man, I'm glad I sat up at the National. It was well worth it."
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you so when you sell cards, you mentioned that you sell a lot of duplicates, but I'm sure I'm sure there's temptation there of if you have a big card or something like that, to kind of put a price tag on it that might be higher. And if somebody somehow says they want that card, so do you run into that situation being like, I guess I'll put it out there. Nobody's gonna buy it for $300 or whatever the price, and then somebody goes by and they say, "Yeah, sure," and now you're like, "What?"
Oh man, you're okay. That is hilarious. You bring this up because our local card shop
Yeah.
wanted to have a mini show with his regulars. Okay, and so it's a big shop, and so he had 9 of us come in and set up one table, and then he advertised, and it was well advertised, and he had somebody with basketball cards, just every genre you could have. And at that time, I was one of the two vintage guys that showed up, and there was no other vintage. The local card shop didn't have any of his cards out.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so anyway, he asked me just bring them and have them overpriced, and just don't just flex a little bit, but don't
Yeah.
have them priced not to sell. Well, I brought some T206. I had two Ty Cobbs. I had the Red Portrait and the Bat Off the Shoulder. And then I had a Walter Johnson and I had a Cy Young. And I had them $500 over comps or even $1,000 over comps. And I had them sitting there. And there's this guy that I know who's a collector that also, I mean, is a big time gun collector and a big time coin collector, and he has a business of that. And he was
Wow.
working on T206 stuff, and he came and he saw the price, and I had him way overpriced, and he said, "What would you take for all of those?" And I said, "Oh," and I said, "I don't know," and he shot me a price. It was about, and I should have taken it. It was probably $5,000
Oh,
over what they were worth. And so if I had any gumption at all, any kahunas, I'd have said sure. But he went out to his car to get a money bag. And he went to a different table first. And then he came over and said, "Okay, where are the T206s?" And I said, "Up. They're not for." I'd taken them out because I saw him go outside. So I'd taken them out of my thing and I put them away. And I told him, I said, "Nope, they're not for sale." And so, yes, don't set something out unless you think you're going to sell it or you don't mind selling it. Because
Oh my
you
gosh.
know,
That
luckily
was
he wasn't too mad at me or anything like that. It didn't hurt a friendship, but he was going to buy them.
wow. That's that's crazy. I see I being new and only going to 2 card shows, like I see a lot like some vintage guys and somebody told me a while back, they say find some cards that you know what the price is pretty much. You're kind of an expert on that card and that they're pretty common. Like a lot of dealers would have them like a Maze card, a Clemente card, and kind of gauge if that dealer's overpricing. You know what I mean? Instead of sitting there on your phone looking up blah blah blah. So I tried to do that, but I did see that like half the dealers were to me they're probably 30% over what eBay recent sales are. And what I thought to myself is I thought, there has to be a lot of people who come in here and they have no inkling of comps and they just buy cards sometimes. So it's to their benefit sometimes to price stuff higher when somebody just walks in and just doesn't even negotiate. I mean, would you agree with that kind of notion?
I I do, but it's to me it's almost like a tennis match between buyers and dealers anymore because you have watched some videos that our YouTuber friends say I don't ever pay sticker.
Mhm.
Okay, they always say I'm gonna, and so that dealer knows for the most part somebody's going to come in and
Exactly.
and say, hey, this is what it shows on comps, and I'll offer you that. And you know that some of those dealers, if they set up at a lot of shows and they know they got a show next week and the week after, they're not in a hurry to sell those cards. They might,
Right.
I see some YouTube guys saying, nope, if they don't want to come down off that sticker price, well, then I'm not going to buy it. Well, they kind of do it the same way. I don't have to come down because I got a I'm just taking inventory to the next show. If I want to,
Yep.
I can move it there. The dealers that bother me the most are the ones that don't have them priced.
Ugh.
That-
Or they're on
And
the back of the card, so they have to get it out of the case and pull over the back of the card. But like you said, if they don't have even something on the back of the card, that's even worse.
uh I have a buddy that sets up his shows with vintage, and he doesn't price his cards at all. And I always just roll my eyes at him, but he does well, does extremely well, better than most because he's real quick looking up comps, but he knows he's not going to get cheated that way. Uh, Whereas I might price mine 2 weeks, a month too early,
Right.
and spend all that time pricing them, and then I might get you know most of the time people are looking up comps anyway, and
Yeah,
and
that would annoy me though, is like you said, is with how the market's changed so much this last year. We were at its peak and now it's been on a downturn. That would just annoy me every couple months to have to reprice tag all my stuff. I can't imagine like kind of how annoying that could be. So
yeah, yeah,
that
it,
that's
it
it.
would have to be.
All right, so why don't we switch? Why don't we look at some cards? So one of the let's let's go. One of the ones that I asked you I rarely see. Let's use the word non-base cards, traditional cards with you. I asked you if you had any like oddball type cards that you could, or even one card, an oddball card that you like that you could maybe show.
And I had to put some thought into that one because I almost want to say I don't collect oddball cards, and John Mangini he hates it when people say oddball cards, but
Yeah.
Rick Oddball Cards talks back to him. But as I put some thought into it, I do collect like a different kind of card, and I'm really going to go after few more of them this year, just because I picked up one last part of last year at what I call the state fair find,
Yep.
and what they are strip cards, and they are cards that right now I have some between 1920 and 1926, and I don't have very many of them. Um,
Okay.
but to me, they are going to be a little bit odd to a lot of collectors. Um, but I like the way they look. They're kind of most of them they're hand cut. Um, so you see a lot of authentics and a lot of ones, but it has a pretty neat design. And so here's my oddball cards that I collect. That's sorry about the glare, but that's a Dan Bancroft.
So so you're saying how many were there, 5 players in a strip and somebody hand cut them, or how many players were on the strip?
I don't know. I really
Okay.
don't know. So I should have probably learned a little bit more before I show these, uh,
Okay.
but
What
yeah,
what
I will learn. I will learn some more. Matter of fact, one of them that I'm going to show, um, uh, a couple of guys have reached out to me and told me more about it.
Nice.
But here's a Ty Cobb in a 1926
Wow.
strip card. Don't know if you've seen that before.
I think I saw it on your state fair find video, but That's a beautiful card. What do they have on? Are they blank back or do they have something written on the back?
Both of these are blank back. Well, yeah, both of these are blank backs.
Okay.
And so this one is too. This is a Christy Mathewson.
Nice. So what company did you say made these?
Well, this is a 1921 W516-2 hand cut. So I don't, again, that W5 number tells you if it's a hand cut or you're going to have to get somebody smarter than me on here to talk about that. But
A
Rick
pre
Oddball Cards, yeah, he has done some stuff on this.
No, that's
And then here's a 1920 Babe Ruth that I picked up at that state fair find.
that has to be a pricey card. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty special in my hobby, in my collection now. And then the one that I've had for a little bit, and I just didn't know what it was. It's another strip card. It's a 1920 hand cut, and it's the Ty Cobb.
Oh wow. Yeah, there you go. That's better without the glare. That's sick. And you got that at the state fair find also?
No, this is something that I've had in my, I remember when I got this, I traded a King Griffey Bowman in an 89 Bowman, I believe, in a PSA 9 for this card. It wasn't like, and the guy brought it to me, didn't collect vintage. And I said, I can pick up that King Griffey any day, which
Yeah.
which I have in a better grade. And now I got this Ty Cobb. But
That's awesome. Yeah, those
yeah,
those
and
are
they're not. Some of these aren't really expensive compared to their playing other cards during their time.
yeah.
So it's going to make me a little bit. Going to make it a little bit easier for me to go after some. Uh, and I've told myself this year when I go after something like, if I go after something and put my mind on it, I'm not against trading cards that hurt a little bit to get that card. So
Okay.
for instance, I tried to finish off the post-war Hall of Fame run
Yeah.
the last 2 years, and I don't have it done yet. But I would it didn't hurt me. Well, it did hurt, but I traded some cards that I didn't have duplicates on
Okay.
to go after some of those cards. And so I'm going to do the same thing. So some of these cards, if it's $2,500, I'm not going to just pay $2,500 for a card. I might put $2,700 in cards to trade for it. Just so I can stay focused on it and go after them. So I'm actually looking forward to that. And I made that decision about getting those cards right after the first of the year because I'm trying to set goals on what I want to do,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things that I thought I'd do. You know.
Because I've been really focused on Clemente. So I appreciate you showing those. Those are awesome. The next thing I wanted to ask you about was do you have a favorite card that was maybe given to you?
I do now. I mean, and this one, holy cow! This one had to put a lot of thought into this one. I didn't know I was going to be thinking so hard, but um, I had a lot of people take care of me. My story. My story was I was the youngest kid in the neighborhood when we finally moved into what would be considered a neighborhood. And when some of those guys went off to college, they knew how important that stuff was to me. So some guys even gave me their cards,
Well,
and some of them sold them to me if I mowed their. I remember a buddy giving me his card collection if I mowed his single mother's yard the rest of the summer, that kind of stuff. But I so I thought about this, and when I was 6 years old, 5, 6 years old, or even 7, maybe.
Hmm.
We went on a vacation. We went from Kentucky, and we never took vacation. I didn't know what it was, but we took a vacation to my aunt and uncle's house, who lived in Indiana. And my aunt's still alive and doing real well now, and she's 80 something, but she's been saying this to us for 20, 30 years now. She remembers when I first got out of the car at her house that I wasn't used to seeing anything but hills or mountains,
Yeah.
and it was all flat land and dirt. And she said, I just ran around in my bare feet, just so excited. And there was her son had a basketball in the yard, and there was a real basketball and a real football, and I didn't want to even leave. And so I kind of idolized my cousin, who was, oh, he's I guess 5 or 6 years older than me.
Okay.
And my when I and I'm sure he was 14 years old. He didn't want to hang around me, for a week, but he sacrificed and stuff, and he took me to places, and he was a big Cincinnati Reds fan. And when I left his place, I was a Cincinnati Reds fan, and I wanted everybody to call me Sparky, like Sparky Anderson, but you can't give yourself a nickname, so that didn't work. And and so when I got in the car to leave, he brought up a handful of cards, and it was the Pete Rose,
Nice.
73 Pete Rose, and that was his favorite player.
Wow.
And he brought up a Johnny Bench, and I know this came from his collection, so that was a big gift. Even then, even if it was a $5 card, it was a huge gift from him. And so I started out, collecting the 73 stuff. So, these might not be the most valuable thing that, anybody's given me.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's the one that I remember the most without, uh,
That's cool.
yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate. I had an older cousin, and he was into Nintendo, the first Nintendo, and he gave me his system, gave me all his games, and I was a big gamer. Like you said, like it's just such a big influence sometimes, that older cousin. So that's really cool that he did that, and you still have them.
Uh-huh.
So
Well, when he was 16 years old, we were out there it might have been close to the last time we went out there, because we ended up moving and to Missouri and doing better and stuff. But he ended up giving me two posters that was all on his wall. It's the 1976 Johnny Bench and a 1969 poster of Tom Seaver, uh, pitching for the Mets on the mound. And
nice.
I still have them. I got a downstairs man cave kitchen kind of area, and both those posters are still hanging up downstairs.
That's really
So
cool. That's really
yeah,
cool. I
yeah.
think vintage posters are. I think they're underrated, really, in the hobby. I love pinups, and I've been collecting the Clemente ones, and I've been really enjoying them. They're cool.
I might end up bringing them up. My wife doesn't want this room turning into you know, a dorm room at a college,
Yeah,
uh, but I still think I might bring those up here.
that's cool. Another thing that I asked if you could get ready for is, do you have a favorite non-card item?
Yes, and again, I put a little thought into this as well. Didn't have to work so hard on this one, but back in the day when I first started mowing, I used to, and some of your guys watching the channel here, I know they had RC Cola cans,
Yeah,
and it had baseball pictures of players on it with stats, and there was over 70 of them, and I think I might have had them all. I mowed at I don't know if you guys get them around here, but we have these KC General stores, and I would mow that once a week, and I'd go in, and that's what I'd get as an RC Cola, and every time I went in there, I got them. So I got them, and I used to stack them up, have 7 at the bottom, 6, 5, 4, stack them up. So I was going to pull that out, and then I have a Bob Feller baseball, but I'm going to tell it. I'm going to tell that one on one of my shows about the Bob Feller. I actually got to catch him at one time, and he signed the
Nice.
ball. He signed a ball for me,
Wow, that's gonna be a
and
good story.
yeah, I think so. And there's people might know this name or not, but I was going to show an Eddie Feiner glove. Eddie Feiner's the guy that was a fast pitch softball pitcher for the King Innes Court, and used to travel around, and he played major leaguers a lot, but he only had four players in the field, and him, and he would, so I got to catch. So I played against him in a little all-star game, a little thing, and then I got to catch him when he was talking to the crowd, and so I got him to sign the glove, there's a pretty neat story there. But I quit talking about stuff I'm not going to show, and
Yeah.
I'll show you this. But what this is a Beckett magazine,
Oh,
and it's signed by Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio,
wow.
and the
So
picking this up.
what year was the magazine? Do you know?
I think it's 92, 91.
Okay.
It's June of 91, and it was just. I mean, it was just in time. It was the DiMaggio was signed before the Mantle, and then it was signed, and
Can you put that back up again? That's good right there. Nice. Wow. So did you buy that for your collection, or how'd you guys come about it?
well, that's a little shady thing. So my wife's probably going to watch this. She wasn't too proud of me, I don't think. Um, there was a pool tournament. I was on a recruiting trip and just got back home from looking at some high school basketball players. Like, I was a small college coach at one time, and so pulled in and talked to was with the head coach, and we went into this bar in the local town, and they were having a pool tournament,
Okay.
and I had to drive home, and we were at a high school watching this kid play, so I'm sober as can be. He's sober. um, uh, they were having a pool tournament, and I looked around, and there wasn't a sober person in the house. They'd all been there all day long. And anyway, you had to put some money into playing this tournament, and the owner of the bar had this on the wall,
Oh,
and and he had it up. He had it up behind him, and he had talked. He had some really good memorabilia. I mean, he had some Muhammad Ali stuff that was just amazing, and so I won. I don't know, $500 or so, and this was in '94 maybe,
wow.
and so he's having trouble collecting, and I said, well, I'll just take that right there. And he said, okay, and uh, so. Anyway, so I won a pool tournament and won that thing right there. But it wasn't really fair because I seriously was the only one that was as sober as me was the other coach that I was with, and he can't shoot pool. So,
Wow.
so
So
yeah, so
you
that
guys had to
not much of
hightail.
a good story on that one, but
No, that's pretty cool. You guys had to hightail it out of there.
yeah.
That's cool. I like that. Um,
But he tells that story a lot different than I do. He's more adamant, and he's really funny about it. But that's really the truth. I wouldn't have won that if it wasn't for everybody else being bad.
that's funny. So the last question I had for you was we all, in this hobby, we all have grail cards. We call them cards that we want to get at some point. What are some of your grail cards that you would like to get at one point?
Okay, well, one card I'm going to pick up this year, and I'm going to keep this year
Okay.
is the Bowman Reese in action color, the color one where he's jumping over the guy sliding.
Yep.
I've had that in my possession 3 different times. I had two of them at one time. Then I picked up one at the National, and by the end of the National, I'd already traded it off. And so I'm going to get that, and I'm going to keep it this year. But that's an easier pickup. But my Grail cards are, I need the 52 Topps Mantle to finish the Mantle run. Okay.
Very hard card to get. Yeah.
It's setting out there. Oh, you could buy it anytime. But that guy better, if I write a check, he better hurry up and go cash it for, so no, that's a Grail card.
Yep.
And then the other one, another Grail card is the 49 Leaf Satchel Paige. I mean, that card is shot up in value. Um, I have, so the PSA set registry has his rookie card as either the Bowman or the Leaf. And I have the Bowman, but he doesn't have a lot of cards in his run,
Right.
but I need that Leaf to finish his run. And man, I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be tough to get. And the Grail card, that is the thing that Indiana Jones needs to hunt for me for, is the 49 Leaf Hal Newhouser. It's a short print. It's the post-war Rookie Hall of Fame part of that set.
Okay.
And it's the only one of the 114 that I do not have.
Okay.
And I don't know. My wife's going to have to start mowing yards and shoveling driveways and stuff like that, so I can get.
I mean, not that it matters much, but what is like a low authentic or a one usually go for his card right now?
Well, the Newhouser, when you see one, it's only a couple $1,000s, but you never see it. He's one of those Hall of Famers that's easy to forget, even though he won more games than any pitcher in the 50s. People don't. You say Hal Newhouser out loud to just your everyday baseball guys, and they go, "Who?"
Yeah.
And so his card was a short print. I don't think people kept very many of them. So it only goes for a couple $1,000s. But a super low grade Satchel Paige just sets you back 12 or 15,000 probably. And
wow.
And Mickey Mantle, it'll make you break some wedding vows to buy that one.
Sell your house.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. That's really cool. I think it's always cool to hear what people are trying to shoot for long term, and I don't have any goals that big right now. I'm looking for the Dick Crow rookie card because it's a high number, and you can get like a one for like $150. You just got to find I'm trying to find like a nice copy. You know what I mean? So
what is that, a 60? What is that? The Dick Crow.
The rookie card. It's a 53. Yeah,
53. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So wow. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a Grail card, but I really don't. I'm still not at the point yet. Like I'm still working on the Clemente run, so I would say I guess a Clemente Grail card would be his 68 3D Topps card. That is.
Is that what you need? Is the 68 3D?
It's one of the cards I need, and it's 68 3D Topps. It's very there's not a big pop count on it. It's very expensive.
Okay.
You're looking thousands of dollars. But yeah, well, I don't know if you remember, but I always end with 10 questions in a minute. How are you feeling about going through it?
Well, if you asked me the same 10 you asked last time, I would get them all right.
Okay. Well, there's
the time before that, I promise you, I got every one of those right.
Okay.
So I'll probably get 3 of these right.
There's no wrong answers in this. That's the good part.
Oh, okay.
It's a matter of how fast can you answer.
Oh, okay.
All right. All right. I got my timer here, and whenever you're done drinking here, I'll start the timer up, and we'll see if you can get through these. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Best fast food restaurant.
Taco Bell.
Favorite 60s top set.
61.
Best player to invest in.
Mike Trout, Mickey Mantle, Patrick Mahomes.
Your favorite adult beverage.
Gin and 7-Up.
Favorite place to go on vacation.
Gulf Shores, Alabama, or Chicago to the National.
Best MLB ballpark.
Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City.
You like better dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Favorite 50 set?
56.
Favorite sport to watch on TV?
College girls basketball.
What do you like to put on,
or AFC Championship football.
what do you like to put on your hot dog?
Ketchup and mustard. Sorry, Chicago.
You got it. You did it. Good job.
Yeah.
That's great. Good job, man. So something that, and by the way, I love 61 also. So good choice. Great subsets. You always talk about, these cards are just temporary. We're holding them for somebody else. I think that's one of the best lines I've heard out there. Um, I believe you have kids. Do you is your plan that your kids are actually going to be the ones you're holding them for, or you have no idea?
Well, my son could care less about cards,
Okay.
and my daughter could care less about baseball and basketball cards. And the reason that I'm getting cards graded is to make it easier for my wife to sell my collection if something happens to me.
Okay.
If something happens to her first, my collection is going to be huge because that's all the money's going to go on that. But if something happens to me, and so what I've been doing is I've been either I going through my 3-row boxes and giving them away, or we have you have Ronald McDonald House around here. We have a thing called Cards for Kids,
Oh,
and
nice.
so we try to put some together, that kind of stuff. But I go through some of that, and if they're Hall of Fame, even if I know they're going to get an SGC 2 or 3, I'm sending them off to be graded, and then that way, if something happens to me, it'll be easier for my wife to sell,
Okay.
and then the money can't go to the kids. Yeah.
That's good. So we've been on here for about 60 minutes now. It's been great talking to you. I think everybody in the community just loves your personality, Chris, and we love your stories. You're one of the best storytellers out there. And I feel like you've lived such this life of so many things happening. It's so cool that you tell these stories. It's really enjoyable. I appreciate that.
Well, listen, you do a really good job. What you're doing now, it's really cool. I wish I came up with this idea first, but no, I
Thanks.
feel I am blessed. I don't know. I'm lucky. I'm blessed. I don't know what it is, but I'm enjoying everything now. It humbles you that listen, this is this craziest thing. I was at a card show, and this kid and his dad came up and asked if I would take a picture with them.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
I had to look around to see if one of my buddies had put him up to it or that kind of stuff. But this kid collects photos of himself with other YouTubers. So here's the thing we need to realize is there's sets of 12-year-old eyes watching us when we do a video. And
Yep.
so Mike Moynihan says, you need to educate, inspire, or there's something else, but just understand or entertain. But I think we just need to understand there's younger people watching this or people that might be wanting to do the same thing that you are. And so I
Yep.
just think we owe it to them to give them, just let them see who we are. And again, I so much appreciate you taking the time and putting me on here, and it's
I
great. So I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man. I had an uncle I was really close to, and talking to you reminds me of that. Just good conversation and great stories, and I appreciate that. And I think it'd be fitting. I think you have one of the best closings in YouTube. Could you give your closing to get us out of here?
I should do something different now. Remember, it's only a hobby. Collect what you like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Theo.
Bye.
Bye, buddy.